the main point without getting into too much detail, number one, and to adjust your message to the person that you're talking to, and sort of a different mindset. So it's not saying everything, it's figuring out what's the best thing to say in this particular circumstance. Does that make sense, Michal?
Kind of, yes. And especially if we imagine some situation, for example, someone is going for an interview. So do you mean that people can tweak what they say based on who they are engaging with?
Let's talk about the interview as a particularly important, maybe critical time when communication, and I'm going to say this, protect people, unfortunately, matters more than anything. So it's your verbal skills that are showing everyone, your verbal skills. You know, maybe they'll do some sort of technical test and get your references, but how you come across in the interview, I really want to stress that. So related to being able to get to the point, you want your answers to be in the neighborhood of 30 seconds to a minute. You want to give a headline. So if I ask, what's your most challenging situation? You don't want to give a big, long story of your life. You want to say, I find the most challenging situation is when I have to do public speaking, because it's not something that I've done very often. So you want to get right to the point, and then you want to back it up. So think of your main point as a very large X. That's your main point. And then you back it up with other points. And that's called being direct, a very important skill for all of us, but especially for technical people who can get lost in the weeds. I'll be candid with you. I've been asked to do programs by the C-suite in a company, and they'll say, I can't take it anymore. These people don't know how to be brief with me. So I'm telling you, from the other side, there are concerns about how technical people are and how concise the C-suite people want them to be. Does this make sense? I hope I'm not being critical.
No, no, not at all. And I think a lot of people who are listening to this or watching on YouTube, they appreciate your direct style. That's awesome. And how can a CTO even know that there is something kind of wrong or not perfect with regards to the communication style? Because the person may be under the impression that he is already having a great job, doing well in the career, but maybe someone like you would say, hey, this is not good enough. So how can you kind of figure it out?
I love this question because self-awareness, along with growth, especially the research indicates when you go from being, really smart, really good at what you do, to wanting to be a leader, there's a whole new set of skills that matter. Why? Because it's assumed that you know your technical skills. So now you're adding on these communication skills. So one way is not even to think about, am I good or not? But when you are on the move to a next level, seek out, whether it's with a coach like me, whether it's reading, whether it's talking to some mentors who are more senior than you, and ask the question. Here's the question I'd like you to ask yourself and others. What are 3 things that are good about my professional communication? And what are 3 things I could work on? And sometimes it's going to take some bravery. And sometimes you already know.
Yeah.
Right. So if I said to you, Michal, tell me something you're good at in professional communication, and tell me something you'd like to work on. Do you have an idea?
Yeah, totally. Like I would say, for example, that I'm quite honest right away with people. And what I could work on, well, sometimes I'm kind of hiding or avoiding surfacing some of the issues. So instead of being upfront with my colleagues that something doesn't work or I had some different expectations, I try to kind of push it forward.
Right. Well, and you just brought up a situation though where you may benefit actually from being more indirect. There are times like when you're giving criticism where you may want to say such and such is good and this is fine, and what I'd really like you to work on is,
Mhm.
So it may actually be more of a strength than you think, Michal.
Mhm. Good
Um,
point.
so the other, you asked about tech folks and leadership. The other thing to think about is your communication style. How do you come across? Because we certainly know that some people are interesting, some people are engaging, and some people fade into the background.
Hmm.
I want to say this, you can be a quiet person and have impact, or you can be more of an extroverted person and have impact. So there's not one right way to be, but what you want to do is maximize your natural self. And
Okay.
there's
How?
three things to focus on with your
Mhm.
image: what you say, how you sound, and what you look like, your nonverbal behavior, your virtual image, and even we'll get into the crazy topic of slides, but even what your slides look like.
This is actually very good that you say this, because just the other day I was on a call with the head of product, who was sharing the case studies and presentations that some of the candidates brought up. And he was quite surprised that the presentation was not as professional, as perfect as he would expect someone to prepare for a C-level or VP of engineering job interview.
Right. So there's a couple of aspects of visual aids, and that was the old fashioned word, visual aids. So literally it is supposed to help you.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's hindering you. Number one, people cannot figure it out.
Yeah.
And number two, it's overwhelming the speaker. I'm a presentation coach. I'm trying to help the presenter be good. Listen to this, everyone. The slides aren't the presentation.
Hmm.
You are.
Yeah.
Does
So,
that
so
make sense?
So are you saying that the slides could be even plain with the white background and black text without any overwhelming graphics, but focus rather on the delivery of the presentation and the speech itself?
I want people to focus more on how they interact with the slide, and I do want the slide to be simple. I'm not a graphic artist, but my mind can say, oh my gosh, to my client, there's too much on there,
Yeah.
or it looks like a mess, or it looks like an encyclopedia.
Hmm. So it's better to
Okay,
simplify.
here's the way to judge. We want to leave the presentation saying, oh, Joseph was amazing. We don't want to say, let me out of here. Just give me
Mhm.
Joseph's slides.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Joseph should be better than the slide deck.
This is exactly the point. Okay, I'll tell you a little secret. Always say more than you show. Always say more than you show. Why? You want the audience, the listeners, to need you. You don't want it to be that they can walk away with everything.
Yeah, yeah, and especially on the interview, when the person needs to come across as a leader and a good communicator, which is probably why the interview process is in place anyway. That they don't really need the case study as such, right? They know the answer already. They want to see that the candidate can deliver and can
Yes.
communicate.
So
Um,
they're looking for, yeah, go ahead.
no, so on this note, I was just curious, how can people even think about the communication skills or presentation skills? I mean, these are two kind of different aspects, but still there are lots of different sub skills, I guess.
Many. Yeah, so we can just narrow it down to, what are some of the skills important for an interview? And they're
Mhm.
also important in other situations, but we can talk about interviewing, because it's a short period of time. That's a critical period of time. Like this week, I'll be working with a woman who really wants a job, particular job, and she does have to present a case study.
Mhm.
So we're going to work on how she presents it, her organization. And this is important to everyone, because I know you're kind of theoretical and strategic. So I want you to realize that there's the message itself, and then there's the delivery. The delivery is how you look, how you sound, how you interact. And you want to be good at both things. Some people just say, oh, okay, oh, here's my case study. All right, yeah, let me just look this over. Well, that's bare bones. That is not enough.
Yeah.
Don't fool yourself for an important interview by saying, I already know everything. Yes, you're smart. You're smart. That doesn't mean you're going to come across as smart. You get what the difference?
Yeah, yeah. Especially when someone is more nervous and stressed out than usually.
Yes. Yes. And the best cure for nervousness is preparing a lot. If you have an important interview coming up, I'd like you to, you have your notebook or your device, write out the 15 questions you might be asked, write out your bullet points, and then practice either with a coach or a friend or with yourself. And of course, these days, it's so easy to record yourself.
Yeah.
I don't want you to be so nervous that you avoid it. I know that's normal. Even if you practice just like 15 minutes a day, think of it as a speech workout, just like you might go to the gym or run or walk.
Yeah.
You need a speaking workout. You know what I could talk about that could be helpful to people is a little bit about virtual communication. Because, Michal, are interviews these days often virtual?
Mostly indeed. Yeah. Yeah. Now, when people work remotely in the technology space, it's mostly virtual on Zoom or Teams.
Okay. And I'm sure we've all seen people who come across well virtually, and others, it's like, yoo-hoo, where are, I've had people who have their head, I mean, it's crazy. So you want to make sure, again, it's a small slice of you. You want to make sure that in that half hour that the interviewer's with you, that you come across professionally. So the hardest thing for everyone is looking in the camera. So like I have a Mac here, and next to the camera, I have a little sticker. It's actually eyeglasses, a little sticker to remind me to look there, to look at the green light, because it's not normal. Normally I would want to look down or at the person, that I'm communicating with. Also, you want to be framed. You want some of this technical stuff, just be framed, be in the middle, be seen usually, about the chest upward. Have your eyes in the upper third. Lighting's important. So you want and some of you folks you might know about lighting and sound much more than I do. You want your light source behind you. I happen to be in a room, the overhead light is not bad at all, but some of you may need to actually purchase what's called a ring light. You've probably seen them.
Yeah, indeed.
During COVID, everyone was getting them.
But now you would kind of assume that people already have it and they know it. But with my colleagues, we were recently interviewing candidates for a teacher role, IT teacher, and they were supposed to record a presentation of them delivering some topic of their choice. And you wouldn't believe how many of them really were not prepared to be positioned the way you just explained. They had not proper lighting. They were not looking at the screen. They were in a dark room recording this. I was like, wow, how is this even possible? They are supposed to be IT teachers, that they should be they should know it already, and they haven't.
Yeah, it's sort of surprising, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's sort of like a basic.
Exactly. So some CTOs who are listening to this, they may also feel like, hey, this is such a basic insight, but we've been there. We've seen people who are still not there with regards to these basics. So it's good to remind them, indeed.
And Michal, it's an interesting observation because it's also too bad. The reason is these could be really good teachers.
Yeah. So true.
And it's sort of a lack of awareness. It's like a favor, though some of my clients get really annoyed sometimes. A favor I know I do for people is give them tips about this. And because it's such an easy adjustment.
Yeah, it almost feels like a lack of professionalism, because a professional IT teacher would already recognize how important it is, would have a proper microphone, proper lighting,
Yeah.
and then would be perceived as a professional. So I guess we need to also create this aura around candidates in the technology space, CTOs, VP of engineering, be professional, which is often hard for them because they have technical background, that the communication is not
Not
natural
top
for
of
them.
mind.
Yeah, not top of mind. Yeah, yeah.
And that's why ever since COVID, there's something I offer to all companies for free. And that is a 15 to 20-minute little talk on your virtual presence. So that I'll put that out there. That's open to anyone who has a company.
Awesome, awesome. I'll include in the show notes. Great. What are some other aspects of the interview process that the CTO can prepare for? Like how to even think about the role, and not just the interview. Now, when I'm thinking about it, probably the interview is not as important as the job itself, and that job in a larger company may require a lot more communication than the CTO in a smaller company was used for. So how to prepare for the next job in terms of communication skills?
Certainly in terms of being ready for it, I'd like you to get outside of your comfort zone. So if you're comfortable with, one or two buddies and, with your certain folks for lunch, you've got to get out there and put yourself, I'm not saying go speak to 1,000 people, but do interview people at the next level. People love it if you say to them, I'd love to pick your brain about being a VP, because it's something I aspire to, and I've heard great things about you. I'd like you to get yourself out there. Number two, I'd like you to keep learning things, because when you get to that next level, you need to know presentation skills. You need to know virtual presence. You need to know how to run a meeting. I'm not trying to scare you, but you're going to come across much better in an interview if you have taken courses or coaching in these skills. And I'll tell you a true story. One of my best clients is technical. He's in the field of auditing. And he was going for a big job. He had had years of experience. The interviewer looks at his resume and says, "Oh, you've taken communication courses." And my client feels the reason he got the job was because compared to every other auditor who applied, he was the only one who showed that he had invested time, money, or whatever in being a leader.
Wow, that's a good one.
Yeah, it really, I tell that story a lot. It's a simple little story.
And this is often overlooked, especially among the technical leaders, because they focus on the hard skills. Yet the other people in the business environment, the chief sales officer, marketing officer, HR officer, so these other people who the CTO will be communicating with, like they almost feels like they speak different language, the business language. So is this also something that could be learned?
Yes, well, we'll go back to what we started with, which is that they want to know the essence. Have you, the phrase speak at a high level. Don't tell me every detail of the cup. Tell me how the cup fits into the whole organization. So they're looking for someone who can talk about the big picture. So some ideas for the people listening would be, when you're at a meeting, start a sentence with, "The main thing I see here is," putting it all together. The biggest challenge is, see how I'm talking? I'm talking about everything. I'm not just talking about my narrow little focus. So when you hear things like big picture, strategic thinker, it is a different way of using your brain. And you can get there, or you could say, that doesn't interest me. I want to focus on the details of the blue mug. That's what interests me.
Yeah.
Again, you have these choices, and we all know not everyone is meant to be a leader. But if you want to get to that next position, I think you'll really enjoy opening up your horizons and learning all these new skills.
Yeah.
They're not that hard. It's learning is not hard. It's the application
Yeah.
that's hard.
Yeah. And you mentioned the phrase strategic thinker or strategic leader. And I'm sure kind of everyone understands these two words separately, but what does it actually mean? Like when you or the C-levels say that we are looking for a strategic leader for the CTO role, like what does it mean? How can someone prepare for this? Like what does it entail?
Well, in terms of preparing for it, do your research on the company. And it's sort of a fine line. I mean, you're not, you can't come across like you're going to take over the company. On the other hand, you can say, I noticed that you're into blue coffee cups. And I've had some experience in some innovation with blue coffee cups and a few directions that would be good to think about for the person who gets this role I'm applying for are A, B, or C. So you're taking what's there and you're thinking of how to maximize it. And it's not that easy to do it in language. So you do want to practice, forget the interview. You want to practice on a daily basis, thinking strategically. And that would be the sentences I talked about. May I offer an opinion? It seems like the direction we're moving in is.
These are great phrases, by the way. I need to fill
I
my gaps
know.
as well.
We should write a book together for IT people on these phrases.
Exactly.
I don't have the patience to do it on my own. I'd need a co-author.
Well, I'm totally up for it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's actually quite a few books, like 1,000 phrases for this, that, and the other thing. I think, oh, how do they have the patience for that? But yeah, no,
Well, I guess
we'll have to put our heads together.
I guess we can just go with 200 phrases or 100.
Exactly. Yeah. No, a lot of clients like that. They like the phrases. You know what I'm asked a lot? And it's so easy how to transition from one point to another. And you do need a sentence. Now I'd like to move on to next. Let's look at. It's really easy.
Yeah.
So those are a few sentences you can use whenever you're trying to go from one point to another. We've talked about blue coffee mugs. Now let's talk about green.
Yeah.
So those are called transition sentences.
Awesome. Well, I really like how you mentioned that the self-awareness is important. And often, I mean, the hardest part is to get the ball rolling and identify the gaps. Is there any way how to identify these gaps? Because there are so many options out there. Like, do you have any favorite way that you recommend to your clients?
Well, one was one I already said, which was identify three things you like about your communication and 3 things you could change, and ask 3 people: a peer, a leader, and maybe someone who reports to you, if you have that. Then I can send you, Michal, if you have a place to post it. I do have a pretty simple a leadership communication assessment tool. It doesn't include everything, but it gets people started. And I don't know if you have a place you post things.
Well, definitely, we should. I can include it in the blog actually that will come with the recording.
Okay, yeah, and it'll get you started. Like, it just asks you to rate yourself. Give yourself a report card, like leading a meeting. Maybe I'm a 3.
Yeah,
I'm average.
Yeah.
Presentation skills. Yeah.
It may be difficult to know what is number 5, for example, because
there you go. That's why just like in your field, when there's a great process, when when something is not right. Well, same thing. That's why there's a field. That's why there's my field, and people study it for years and years. So, do rely on experts. There's coaches, there's books. My book's still doing well after many years. I'm actually revising it. It's called Smart Speaking, which the opposite of stupid speaking. So yes, I know the criteria.
Mhm.
You know, I know what makes a person a 5 in an interview versus a 1. So a
Mhm.
person who, I'll just give a person who's a 5 has concise answers, has interesting answers, talks within 30 to 60 seconds, has a vibrant facial expression, uses the virtual space well. So these are
Mhm.
all criteria. Just again, like folks in IT, you have criteria
Yep.
that you learned and you've now internalized. So experts in my field, exact same thing.
Mhm.
Very much like a doctor. Healthy person, not so healthy. What are
Yeah.
the criteria?
Yeah, yeah, it's so good that you mentioned this because
Yeah.
I haven't realized how important it could be to actually get the feedback from someone who really specializes in communication, for example, or before that the person goes for an interview to get an opinion from some other interviewer from some other company just as a practice.
Right. And something to keep in mind is well more than half of my clients have their coaching paid for by their company. Why? The company invests in their development very
Mm.
often. Now, you could go on your own, but many companies are very happy to use some of their learning and development budget to advance people's careers.
Mhm. That's interesting. And you mentioned this example of the C-suite complaining about the technical people. They are, what was it?
Yeah,
Uh,
they're driving they can't stand it. They're willing to spend big bucks
yeah,
to
yeah.
bring in someone like me because they cannot take it anymore. They
Hmm.
can't stand how people are reporting to them.
Yeah.
They want, there's an old expression, be brief, be bright, be gone. And so a client, I remember a client asked me to develop a big course, which they gave to a lot of people called executive briefings.
Mm.
And it was all about how to report upward. And those of you who are in the C-suite or going there, you know what I mean. You don't have the time
Yeah.
for a lot of BS that you don't want to hear. So, um, you
So
know,
interesting with all of these new skills that someone needs to acquire. I know someone who has been managing developers and technologies, taking care of the software architecture, and now needs to learn how to run meetings, how to report.
yes, you'll love it.
That's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
What are some other skills that the technical people should focus on in regards to communication or probably even beyond?
Well, in the time that we have, I would say I could break down like oral communication would be your speech clarity, your voice itself. There's a lot of research indicating that how you sound matters. And the most important thing is the ability to hold attention. So right now, maybe my voice is okay, but I'm not going to hold attention. You can see a big change in how I'm talking.
Yeah.
And every language has a different pattern. English happens to have a need for one word in every phrase to jump out. So it's actual energy that you're using in your voice.
Mm-hmm.
And then non-verbally, there's facial expression, there's gestures. And if you're in a room, there's movement. And then a whole set of skills, what we do not have time for today, would be your relationship building skills, your interpersonal skills,
Well, there is
and
a lot.
likability.
Yeah, there is a lot to uncover. What about the charisma? We've heard a lot about it, not today, but um, I mean, I've kind of this is something that has been on my radar, but I still don't really know how to improve it. Can it even be improved, or is it something that you are born?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, so one of the things we ask people to do is to choose 2 words. How do they want to come across? And, you don't want to go crazy. I mean, if you're kind of a dull person, you don't want to say, I want to be dynamic or charismatic. You might want to say, I want to be effective, and the next level might be influential. And then it's you and your coach operationalize it. with those three things, what do you need to do with what you say? What do you need to do with how you sound? And what do you need to do with how you look? And we could literally form a spreadsheet.
Hmm.
What does charisma look like? And it's, there's no magic formula, but we certainly know that people who are charismatic convey energy, convey passion. You like listening to them, you like watching them. They stand out because of certain things they're doing. And I'll end with this quote. I have lots of different quotes from myself that I made up over the years. Okay. So you can't see someone's intellect, their character, or their soul. You can only go on what they say, how they sound, and how they look. That's how we judge people, like it or not.
Yeah.
Those are the clues that we use.
Yeah, that's so true, and it's so powerful because it also guides us on what we need to improve, especially
Exactly.
looking for a new job. So awesome. I mean,
Exactly.
we could talk about this for another hour or two. I mean, there is so much to unpack, but probably we need to co-author the book, and and then a lot will
Yes,
be.
okay, all right. I'll expect to get working with it. You'll have to give me a little bit of a nudge.
Yeah, definitely. Is
Yeah.
there anything before we wrap it up that you would like to share with fellow CTOs or chief information officers with regards to their career and advancement?
Well, I'm just so glad you're listening to this and that you're giving yourself the opportunity to think about continuing to build not only your